All right, I'm going to give us the sacred readings, so just listen with your hearts. The first one is Genesis 1, verses 1 through 5, the creation of the world. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And then our second reading is an excerpt from the Starry Black Night Advent devotional written by Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown, who's the lead pastor of the Plymouth Church, United Church of Christ. When God made the heavens and the earth, the light was not born as a correction to the darkness. The light was spoken into existence out of blackness, and there is no inherent evil attributed to the dark. The vast and nurturing embrace of blackness birthed the light. I contend that the dark is where God begins God's work with and in us. It is but the inside of the chalice where the sacrament of communion with God occurs. I was a little confused about the next step, but the message contemporaries. Yes. All right. All righty. This way. Testing. How's that sound? Are we good? Okay. Okay. I'm Jayne. Gosh, I've been a member of this community since my children were maybe 2 or 3, and they're in their 30s and 40 now. So that's a long, long time. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys today about cultivating a theology of darkness. Okay. This idea about God as darkness started percolating in me maybe about 10 years ago when I was at an international imagery conference, and I was introduced to the idea that God is in the void, that God is the void, and that darkness is hope. This concept was new to me, and I wish I could tell you the source now. It's been so long. I'm searching and searching. What was the story behind that? And I can't come up with it. But the concept really took root and brought a sense of peace to me. In the last 2 or 3 years, as I've immersed in the soul transforming work of educating myself and unpacking racism internally and in our systems and institutions, my reverence for the darkness has increased tenfold. We associate light with goodness, justice, and divinity. Our society is centered around whiteness as the dominant presence, the majority view. And we associate darkness as something to fear and struggle against. This identification with light as good and dark is bad is really automatic for us. We have been entrained and socialized this way for eons. But I always appreciate Valerie Carr's words from the Revolutionary Love Project. And if anyone has ever spent any time with me, you've heard me repeat these words over and over. We are not responsible for our first thought. That is hard wiring. We are responsible for the second thought. So I hope to expand your thinking and the felt sense experience this morning around light and dark, and give you a few ideas to enable you to respond to that habitual light is good thinking with a new capacity to embrace that dark is good, that you can have a new second thought and be nourished by it. I'm heavily relying on, can you hand me that book? If anybody wants to geek out about science and mystery and theology, A lot of my words today come from Race in the Cosmos by Dr. Barbara Holmes. She's part of the Center for Contemplative Action community with Richard Rohr. She's on faculty there. She's a lawyer, a theologian, a minister, an African-American woman from the Gullah tradition. And she also has an excellent podcast called The Cosmic We that I would encourage listening to if you're interested. So a lot of the information today comes from this book. In her introduction of her book, Race in the Cosmos, Dr. Holmes encourages that we free ourselves from the negative stereotypes, our conditioned habitual thinking around light and dark, and recognize our common cosmic origins. So I want us to get grounded in a little factual perspective. The numbers I'm going to talk about here and the cosmology discussion are sourced from Dr. Holmes' books, and the images are from a sermon you can find on YouTube by Timothy Tutt of Westmoreland Congregational United Church of Christ. The sermon is titled Many Mansions. It's about 20 minutes, and he does a really good job of diving deep into Dr. Barbara Holmes' thoughts. So I highly recommend looking that up. So if you could cue Doug the universe graph first. Okay, so if you guys can see that, that's the makeup of the universe. It's 95% dark energy. So just look at the visual. Little bit of light, 95% dark energy, dark matter. Just take that in. The universe is 95% dark. As science reveals to us more about the mystery of the universe and the importance of dark matter, one theory suggests that the dark matter is the connective tissue of the universe, what holds us together. The heavy particles that may be the substance of dark matter infuse the spirit and the body so that 1 billion of them would be passing through your body every second, and yet you would not be able to detect them. In this thought line, it's the dark matter that holds us together. And then can we see the 2/3 world image? So this is the makeup of people on the earth by race or ethnicity. 84% are people of color. Dr. Holmes explains, as we connect with the actual predominant experience of dark matter, that we can embrace darkness as a symbol of power and relevance, and that this changed understanding of darkness offers people of the 2/3 world an opportunity to begin to see themselves as metaphorically connected to a darkness that is predominant in the universe. It's empowering to see that the universe similarly is made up to the origins of the people on this planet. Dr. Holmes notes that the description 2/3 world is a reference to the collective of nations and peoples from indigenous or ethnic origins that emphasize their majority status and intercultural connections. So darkness is predominant, empowering, and connecting. So I want you to just pause for a moment and take that in. Maybe take a deep breath or two. I really like a physiological sigh. It quickly activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So 2 inhales, quick, and an exhale. Just do 2 or 3 of those. 2 inhales in, and an exhale. And just let yourself wander back to that yaw moment that Amara just did for us so beautifully. Let yourself walk into a moment when you're either just falling asleep or you're just waking up. It's still dark. You're warm and cozy. Just notice how your body feels, enveloped in the darkness, the warmth. the safety. I just love these moments right before I fall asleep or just as I'm waking up. The goodness in the dark. And just let yourself stay with that kind of feeling of warmth and coziness in your body as I continue to share. Many years ago, around the same time I was introduced to this idea of God in the dark, of God as the void, I was facilitating some guided imagery with a hospice patient who was experiencing a lot of anxiety and struggling against losing physical capacity and ability to be out of bed. This person was deeply connected with the Catholic faith. So we did a guided imagery process, and guided imagery is a modality to help reduce pain, anxiety. We did a guided imagery process where you invite in an inner wisdom figure to help comfort you, to help give advice about how you might deal with your situation. And this person experienced, his image was a dark circle, a void slightly outside of his body. And this was kind of very synchronistic because I just learned of this concept, and I was like, whoa, what is happening here? The person had never experienced such an image before. He didn't have a reference point. He didn't really know what to make of it. But what he did describe was the image felt very comforting. It brought a sense of peace and ease. So later in our discussion, when he came out of the imagery process, I was like, oh, well, have you ever, does that mean anything to you? Have you ever experienced something like that before? And he was just like, no, but it was comforting. It was comforting. And it's an image he continued to use. And I was able to share, I don't know what to make of it, but I just learned of this idea that God is in the void. God is the void. Maybe that's something that can help here. And it was really just kind of one of those astonishing moments that happens sometimes in hospice. So I want to bring us back to our biblical creation story in Genesis. The earth was without form and void. Darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. To me, this darkness was over the face of the deep. God was over the face of the waters. The Spirit of God was hovering darkness as the beginnings of life. In our Christian traditions this time of year, we are focused on the birth of Jesus and the coming of the light. But let's break that down a little bit more. The miracle of life happens within the womb, in this dark, warm, watery home. Jesus is born of darkness. And as our other sacred reading tells us, the light was not born as a correction to the darkness. The light was spoken into existence out of blackness, and there is no inherent evil attributed to the dark. The vast and nurturing embrace of blackness birthed the light. The vast and nurturing embrace of blackness. That's why I love this picture I have on the altar. The center of the heart is black. And I think about our chant that we would do at Advent when Simon was here. If you make a manger in your heart, then the Godchild will be born again. And I think about, well, if you make a womb in your heart, if you make a center of darkness in your heart, life will begin anew again. So I encourage you, so our center, the darkness, propels life. And I want to encourage you to celebrate a theology of darkness in the weeks ahead. Perhaps every time you have the thought equating light with goodness, when you hunger for the light, you could just pause. When you notice, I'm dreaming about light in this dark night at 4:00. You could just notice, oh, that's your first thought. And you could take a breath and imprint a new second thought, that hope resides in the vast, nurturing, life-giving darkness. Thank you.
So instead of a hymnal response, we will have a meditation of the cosmos, race and the cosmos.
As we continue the struggle for justice, the universe invites us toward expanded options. We can incorporate the wonder of science in our liturgy, our prayers, and our politics. We are whole. We are connected. And we are responsible to and for one another and our host planet. We can respect the differences of light and dark as alternating and equal powers in the universe. And in the words of Ava DuVernay, quote, we can become our ancestors' wildest dreams.